in 1975 was the first time we ran this truck right here, and it came straight from Parnelli's shop. I jumped in it, Parnelli got in the right seat, and I zipped it across the desert out there. And I'll tell you what, I was thrilled with that vehicle. The moment I drove it, we didn't hardly have to do anything to it. Brought it down here, teched it, put it in the race, and won the very first race that I drove it.
Just some fabulous vehicles here. We're going to take our walk down memory lane a little later in the program. A look back now, not quite so long ago, as we bring you up to date on the Pro Truck Race Series. In our first event, Jeff Dickerson and Jimmy Knuckles combined for a fabulous 2 days of racing in Laughlin, Nevada, and won the first race of the season by a combined time of only 1 minute and 8 seconds. They really had it going in Laughlin. There was also a great race for second place as Al Hogan in the white truck nearest the camera and Steve Barlow in the Red Bull Ford went head-to-head around and around the Laughlin course, and it was finally Barlow who flew through the air to grab the second spot. So, Ivan, let's take a look at our driver and manufacturer's points battle coming into this event.
Well, Steve, it's always an important part of any off-road racing series to win that driver's championship, but you'll also notice that we also have this year the manufacturer's championship up for grabs, so that should be a great battle.
We'll see how those point totals stand up as the Pro Trucks have moved to the start line. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the start of the Parker 425. Steve Weiss and Ivan Stewart coming to you from Parker, Arizona, where we have a field of 8 Pro Trucks led by the Ford of Rick Johnson and the 3 other time trial qualifiers, Al Hogan, Jimmy Knuckles, and Rick Johnson in his Toyota. Minutes before a big race, what are your thoughts as a driver, Ivan?
Well, typically what these guys are thinking, they probably got butterflies. Some of the guys are relatively new to off-road racing, but you got to get those butterflies, what they say is flying in a row. So get everything organized, and we're going to go.
Here's a look at our starting grid. Rick Johnson in the Ford will start first. Al Hogan will go second. Jimmy Knuckles will start third. The other Rick Johnson in the Toyota fourth. Kevin McGilvray will start in John Becker's truck. David Scaroni will start sixth. Greg Lewin seventh, followed by Dan Hunt. Here's the in-car camera of Rick Johnson moving into position below the VP Racing fuel balloon. The trucks will start 15 seconds apart, so we will be watching the clock today. Ivan, how important is it to get a good, clean start here?
Extremely important, and one of the reasons being, we just mentioned, they're starting 15 seconds apart, which is relatively unusual for off-road racing. Sometimes we get as much as a minute, 30 seconds, but 15 seconds, you don't want to get yourself in a position right off the bat where you have some sort of problem. You got stuck in the silt, you fell off the road, you have a flat tire. Too many cars will get by you, so you really got to be organized in this first, the first 15, 20 miles anyway.
So in a case like this, if you get out of position, even for a short time, 30 seconds, you'll lose two positions, maybe 3.
At least 2 and probably 3, and it could be 4 if you're taking time getting buckled up and you're back in your seat, because it takes you a lot of time to change a tire.
I assume, even though they're starting on the pavement, they'll hit the dust real quick, and this close together, there's going to even be more dust.
And there will, absolutely, because that guy just, the dust will linger sometimes a full minute, 2 minutes, even depending on the wind.
Early look here, as you look around, we don't see the trees blowing in the wind at all. Not a lot of breeze out there in the course, apparently.
There is no wind at all.
That could be a factor as we watch Dan Hunt leave the start line area. Rick Johnson's co-driver really laying on the horn here as they've already caught up to a buggy to start it in front of them.
Now what they've realized, Rick has realized that they've wetted the infield. It's damp, as you can see, it's not making dust. So he wants to get up here and bump this guy or get around him, whatever he can do, before they hit that dust here, because before long, I'll guarantee you it's going to get dusty, Steve.
So nice job there by Rick Johnson. Notice where Rick made the pass, the course was wet for the benefit of spectators in that area. Now, further back on the course, this is Greg Lewin and Dennis Dean of Dukes Racing, and look at the dust they're driving through. It just hangs in the sky.
And that's what we always hope for. We talk about the perfect race course, but you always want that breeze to blow crossways, not down the track, but crossways.
No visibility even on a fast road. So we're going to need lights at this rate.
Boy, let's hope not. Here's the first truck on the road, Rick Johnson, and he is off to a real quick start and setting a good pace for the rest of the Pro Trucks to chase. We're looking back for the second truck on the road, and that should be Al Hogan, but it's not. It's Jimmy Knuckles driving for Jeff Dickerson, and he is slowing just a bit, and that's because he sees Al Hogan pulled over with the problem, Ivan.
Now what happens, the reason he's pulled over and slowed down, it's not because he doesn't want to make dust for old Al here. He doesn't care about that. He wants to analyze the situation real quick. What kind of problem does Al have? Does he has a flat tire? Has he got oil leaking? Is he tipped over? Has he got a spindle broken? Because he'll know that Al Hogan will be back eventually and be a contender.
And we can see clearly the problem is a flat tire. Al Hogan and his co-driver working hard there, and there goes the mechanic square truck. It too gets ahead of him.
Not only these guys have all got by him, but the other thing is that he's had to get filthy dirty now. He's changing a tire with the dust. And it's frustrating. He's back. You know, he's already messed his race up. Don't want to do that.
You hate to have that happen that early in the race. So Jimmy Knuckles going to grab that second spot on the road, and this is just the way he wanted to start this race as he and Jeff Dickerson go for 2 in a row. Kevin McGillivray in the Mechanics Wear Ford of John Becker actually started 5th, and he has already moved up to 3rd, so he has made it past 2 trucks, and that's not easy to do in this early dust cloud here at Parker. Here's the Milgard Windows Toyota of Rick Johnson, and the word is they got off the course for just a moment, and Kevin got around them, so apparently no problem other than visibility.
And this is David Scaroni, Steve. He's our youngest driver in the Pro Truck Series. He's only 16 years old. He's teamed up with his dad, Steve Scaroni.
Somewhere right around in here is that high-speed off-camber. I don't think we'll be going very high speed.
Steve, what they're talking about is on their GPS is telling them that there are some off-camber corners up here, but they can't see the road, so it doesn't make any difference. It's too dusty.
Here's Al Hogan, and he made the tire change, Ivan.
And one thing you'll have to notice now, not only did he have a flat, but now he's down, if you notice, just down to 1 spare, so he cannot afford to have another flat now.
Here's a guy looking to avoid holes, rocks, splats, slower vehicles. Our race leader, Rick Johnson of the RJR race team, a 3-time Pro Truck Series champion. Rick really has the experience to make this race difficult today on the rest of the field.
He really does, you know, and he's a favorite of mine and has been for a long time. He's got a tremendous amount of experience in the desert. He lives in Barstow, California. But not only is he very smooth, very methodical as a driver, but he understands a race truck. He has his own shop. He preps his own race truck, so look for big things from Rick Johnson. As we mentioned before, 3-time Pro Truck champion.
And off to a great start again today. There's Jimmy Knuckles riding the ridge right behind him, and his strategy also in place.
I'm hoping for a good clean run and not to hit any of the holes and get any flat tires and just give the truck to Jeff in the lead. And then he'll take it to the finish, and we're hoping to win this one.
We go inside now with Kevin McGillivray and Mike Becker, driver and co-driver for the Mechanics Wear Pro Truck.
Now, Kevin owns his own Chevrolet Pro Truck, but he's teamed up with John Becker. A couple of things is kind of interesting. I'm sure fans are noticing the lights that are hitting the road, and it's a broad daylight race. Why has he got the lights on? The reason the guys do that is because they want the car in front of them that they're catching to look in the rearview mirror and see those lights. Hey, there's a car behind us. Let's get out of the way. He might run into us.
So an interesting situation. Kevin here actually helping John Becker in the points race. That might come back to affect him later in the season if he makes a run for the points title. Rick Johnson's Toyota up on that ridge, and you can tell it's getting more difficult to see with all of that dust.
Keep in mind, Steve, this is actually the only second race that Rick has done with this truck. You know, we're proud to have the Toyota in the field. He raced the Baja 1000, but you know, only his second race, but he's doing well.
Inside now with Rick and co-driver Ken Nance.
And he's right there. Is that him or somebody else? No, that's a Pro Truck.
Now what they're talking about is they see it, that dust up ahead of them, they see tail lights, but they want to catch him, but yet they don't want to drive up in that dust.
I can see the light, that's him. We'll get him. How's the brakes and everything good? Yeah. Good. Everything's good on the gauge. This truck's working perfect. Can't see nothing.
Rick mentioning it's difficult to see, and he's not kidding. I don't know if Greg Lewin even knows where he's at other than in the dust.
Now keep in mind another thing that's interesting for the fans that are watching. Every one of these trucks have got an amber light in the back. You can see that. That's not necessarily a tail light. That's so the guys can see, as you can see here, that they're going through the dust, they don't run over somebody.
Come on, guy. There you go.
That's Harpo Walker. That's Rick's co-driver, and he's just trying to guide him through traffic.
Awful anxious to get going. There's Kevin McGillivray patiently trying to track down the dust of Rick Johnson. You can see it in the distance far ahead of him. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Parker 425. Steve Weiss along with Ivan Stewart, and we're watching the Ford of Rick Johnson cruising along as the leader of this race. Since we've started our OLN Pro Truck coverage, it's been anything but a cruise for Rick, starting with last year's World Championships in Crandon, Wisconsin.
Well, it's real exciting. We went back to Wisconsin for the World Championship. These guys, see, got a close together, which we don't typically have those kind of problems in desert racing, and that became a very, very expensive crash.
Then in our last race at Laughlin, his teammate Rob Einerson was blinded by dust and found himself on the short end of a head-on collision with a very big rock.
And again, another very expensive crash for these two trucks. It's a shame they are so competitive. It's but it happens in racing, Steve.
Ivan talked with Rick before the race.
That's definitely key for this type of racing, is getting some wind so we can see the visibility. And that's what happened in Laughlin with us. With the short track and no wind, Rob got caught up in a situation and hit a big rock and broke the truck. So after that, we decided we're going to do the last 6 races of the Pro Truck Series. And I told Rob, well, we can't just miss one. You know, we want to go for the series and show our sponsorships that our sponsors that we can bounce back and make it to the event. So, and we're happy to be here.
Well, Rick's sponsors should be real happy with his performance so far today. Uh-oh, Ivan. Looks like Jimmy Knuckles has a problem. That means both Kevin and Rick Johnson in the Toyota may get by him here.
You know, it's hard to say what his problem is. Visually, it doesn't look like he's got a flat tire, but, you know, it could be an engine, it could be transmission, it could be a lot of different things. You know, it's just difficult to say at this point. They're talking back and forth. The co-driver's out of the truck, as you can see.
It doesn't look like it's something with the truck. It looks like it may be something because he isn't looking at the truck. He's just walking around beside it.
Yes, it's just hard to tell.
So Kevin McGilvray is now the second truck on the road, but it's not like he's got a clear path or anything, Ivan, with all of this dust out here.
It really isn't. And you know what these guys are doing is they're trying to make their way around the track, just hoping that the wind will blow, or maybe they get a rain shower so they can start seeing.
There's a big hole down here. Yep.
As you notice, these guys, they say a big hole down there. That's from the GPS. They made these marks mentally and on their GPS so they know where these spots are.
From the Mechanics Wear truck to the Milgard Windows Toyota of Rick Johnson. And you know these guys are still in the hunt and chase mode, Ivan, trying to move in on Kevin's truck. Let's go back inside and ride along for a while with Rick and Ken Nance and see how they're doing.
How's that tracked up for?
Fine, 160. Truck's working so good. There he is, right there. Need to catch him. He's right there, dude. Let's get him.
Yes, they've spotted Kevin's truck up ahead.
Got him. Let's get him. Come on, sweetie pie. Let's get on here.
Ken Nance starting to have some real fun now. We'll check back in with them in a moment, but let's reset the rest of the field. This is the Pro Truck of 16-year-old David Scaroni, who shares the ride, as Ivan mentioned, with his father, Steve. And now in car again with Greg Lewin.
That was close. Yeah.
Now what they meant by that, it was close. They got by, and they missed the guy, but they almost got stuck. It was very soft there.
So close both ways there. Look behind the rest of that dust and you'll see our race leader, Rick Johnson. He's looking to make still another pass.
Now what's Rick trying to do? He's catching slower traffic, obviously, but he is trying, as we mention all the time, off-road racing is an all-day crash, but he's trying to take as little out of that race truck as he can. Don't damage it. Get by these slower cars. Do not have a flat.
Here's the key moment, Ivan. He's looking for a spot. Do you look for one side or the other, or just whatever side is open?
Well, you're trying to get to a point where he's at right now. He's not making a lot of dust, but in this wash where they're at, there's a lot of rocks, and it's hard to see from the helicopter, but down there, there's some big rocks. He wants to make the pass, make it clean. Do not clip a rock.
So he might have been able to get around it, but he's got to find the spot that isn't only wide enough, but safe enough to make that pass.
And you can see the big rocks right there, and he did it. That was a great pass. That's hard to do.
Look at this. Rick Johnson's Toyota has picked up a few branches catching up with John Becker's Mechanics Wear Ford. Let's go inside and watch what happens.
Tap him.
Ooh, tap him. Good tap. The problem is what he may have done there, he gave him a tap, but he missed the bumper. He hit him in the, if you notice, Steve, it was the right rear quarter panel he hit. He may not have felt that.
Get him. Get him.
He's running, so what that means that we got a race going. I don't think he felt the bump.
Boy, this got to be frustrating. You almost think you're going to get him. Next thing you know, you got a face full of dust.
And lots of
I
it.
can't see.
No.
I can't.
Right turn.
Yeah, I can't see.
I know. Hold on. Damn, we had him too.
Damn it.
Okay, we're still on course.
Wait, no.
We're still on course. No, we're off course. There we go. Damn it.
Well, an exciting moment there for both trucks. This is the other Rick Johnson in the Ford, and he's managing to stay out of all of that mayhem for the moment, Ivan, as he crosses the road and heads back to the main pit area.
And he just wants to get back. He's got the main pits in sight. Let's get back. Boy, I've got a clean lap going. Don't make any mistakes again, as you always hear me say. But again, this is difficult on this track.
Back inside again now with Rick Johnson. Let's see if things have calmed down any.
What?
There's a tree branch stuck through the fiberglass right here.
A big one or?
Yeah, dude. About 3-4 inches. Okay, hard left turn here. It's just through the fiberglass, so no big deal.
Well, I'm not sure I've heard of that one before, Ivan. So Kevin McGilvray in the Mechanics Wear Ford of John Becker has held off the charge of the Toyota at the moment. He remains in second place.
Well, you know, Kevin may have felt that. You know, we don't know for sure, but he may have felt that bump and, you know, really built a fire in him. Now he's really on the throttle.
Here is Rick Johnson's Toyota. There's the tree branch, Ivan.
And there's the tree branch. And what happens a lot of times going through these washes, you get out of the groove and get up too close to those trees, and he just broke one off and stuck right in the window there.
Well, I'm sure they'll pull that out at the next pit stop for him. Just up ahead, Ford Rick Johnson is blasting through the main pits area near the town of Parker. He is not stopping on this go-around, Ivan.
Evidently, there's no scheduled stop. He's, you know, he's making good time. He's not going to pick up fuel. His crew waves him on there. He's on the gas pedal. No doubt about that. He's running hard.
So Kevin McGilvray in the Mechanics Wear Ford, he is scheduled for a stop. Let's see if he makes a good, clean stop here. Take us through this pit stop, if you would, Ivan.
One of the main things that's really hard to do, a lot of the fans don't realize, when you come to one of these pits, they're going to put gas in, obviously. They're going to look for any problems on the truck. But it's hard for the driver. It must relay to the crew what's going on. Hey, I hit a tree branch, or I have a right front tire that's shaky.
You see him there trying to give a little bit of information to somebody who's looking around the truck. That's one of the keys with these pit stops, isn't it? I've heard you say before, get as many eyes on the truck as you can.
Well, that's right, Steve. You really want as many people as you can looking at the truck. And there goes Rick Johnson.
Oh, boy, so after all that bumping and grinding between the Toyota and the Ford out in the desert, Rick Johnson passes him while he's in the pits. It was a good stop for the Mechanics Wear team. They got to feel happy about that, but now he's third on the road, so he's got some work to do. As for the other Rick Johnson, Ford Rick Johnson, his strategy is pretty simple. Stay out ahead of everybody, and they can't pass me while I'm in the pits. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Best in the Desert, Parker 425. I'm Steve Weiss along with Ivan Stewart, and we are watching Rick Johnson make his way along pit road looking for his pit crew, which, by the way, both Rick Johnson's former teammates are sharing pit resources for this race.
And that's right, Steve. It's such a long course, 135 miles. These guys are starting to share their resources here. But you notice how slow Rick's going. There's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit through this pitting area. He's pulling in. Now, what they'll do is dump fuel, obviously, and it looks like they're going to change co-drivers, check the tires, possibly put new tires on, check the truck over real well, and get out just as quick as they possibly can.
This is Toyota's Rick Johnson speeding, and I do mean speeding, to get to those same pits.
95.
97. What he's meaning there is 97 miles an hour is what he's doing, reading by the GPS.
So here is Rick Johnson now leaving the pits. He's changed co-drivers. He's got new fuel. Didn't look like he had to mess with the tires. He's in good shape there. The other guy interested in how the pit stop works out is the Mechanics Wear ProTruck of John Becker, driven by Kevin McGilvray. And now Toyota's Rick Johnson has reached the pits. And remember, it was during the Mechanics Wear pit stop that Rick took over second place. Turnabout is fair play, Ivan. Looks like Kevin is going to get him back.
Well, it certainly does. But, you know, there's several things that people don't realize. You've got to come into these pits quick and efficient and get out. But yet you don't want to get out and have a problem that you missed or you oversaw. And there goes Kevin.
You're right, Ivan. Could be 50, 60, even 100 miles until they get another good look at that Toyota truck.
We got 30 mile an hour zone. Hold on now. You're at 25, 26, 31. Slow down.
So there you go. They're anxious to get back in the race, as is this guy, Al Hogan, who has had problems today but is now back and running at full speed, working his way back up to 4th. Let's go inside once again with Greg Lewin and Dennis Dean of the Dukes race team.
When do we get to the fun part? Whoa, whoa. There was a fun part. Yeah.
And you know what happened right there, Steve, is Greg got a little bit complacent. He started talking, he lost concentration, and hit a washout. Almost got the truck upside down.
Scary moment. Here's our race leader, Rick Johnson, and he is having absolutely a perfect run today, Ivan.
He really is, Steve. You know, and I talk about so many times having patience. You've got to have the team, the experience, well prep on the truck. But probably more than anything is the fact that he has patience.
He's also far enough into this race now, Ivan, he doesn't have to contend with a lot of other vehicles' dust. As we watch Rick Johnson continue to roll along, we're going to take a moment to step back into time for a brief history lesson on off-road racing. It's always been man and machine versus brutal desert, and man and machine doesn't always come out ahead. Every time we think we found a quick way to get between point A and point B in the desert, Mother Nature swallows us up and reminds us who's in charge, from silt beds to flash floods. But that's the fun of off-road racing. The sport has a rich history of nearly 40 years worth running over, but we'll concentrate on off-road's heydays in the 1980s and 90s, when sponsors and fans embraced the sport like never before. TV cameras and crews were soon to follow, and a sport that was once reserved for families playing in the desert on weekends reached America's living rooms during prime time. Helicopters with cameras hovered above, and in-car cameras below gave audience members a rare look inside the cockpit during the race itself. It didn't stop there. Driver interviews during the race were unheard of in most motorsports, not off-road.
The Toyota truck is just working fantastic. Just trying to keep it going, you know. We've got our class covered pretty well. We're kind of keeping an eye on Robbie Gordon. I want to keep him back there. I want to win overall if we can, but, you know, class victory is much more important, but we'll see what we can do.
Ivan Stewart versus Robbie Gordon. Yes, the stars of off-road were shining bright. Gordon, of NASCAR and Indy fame, started his racing career in off-road, and by his late teens was a formidable opponent. There were many other familiar racing names like Rick and Roger Mears. In this Baja 500, Roger's team provided us with a memorable daredevil highlight, proving the point we'll do just about anything to win.
Tony Alvarez, the co-driver, did a great job today. He was, we left the hood off so he could reach out so I wouldn't have to stop. And he'd climb out there in the front of the truck while I was going and pour oil in the power steering. I mean, it was a hell of a sight.
PJ Parnelli Jones, one of the most famous of all Indy race car drivers, has had a quiet 30-year love affair with Baja, coming back time and time again to challenge the desert and help bring new technology to the vehicles that race here.
Yeah, it is great to come back and obviously see all the new equipment and all the advancement. Obviously, you know, with electronics and all the shocks and tires and suspension and stuff like that. I mean, we've come a long ways in the off-road racing.
There were others who built their legends here in the desert, like the colorful Rod Hall, who has a story to tell about every single one of his Baja adventures. And the big Dodge of Walker Evans, who proved you could conquer the buggies and the desert in a truck, win after win, just adding to that mystique. And of course, Ivan Ironman Stewart, who emerged from humble beginnings to pilot the most successful of all off-road race teams. Ivan and Toyota teamed up for unprecedented success in the desert, earning the Ironman nickname for his many long solo journeys through the barren desert.
Class 1 victory is important. We want to win the championship this year for Toyota, and I'd like to win both driving championships, stadium and desert racing.
The Ironman, Gordon, Mears, and Evans moved their show to America's stadiums, but it doesn't matter whether you're racing in front of 80,000 or 800. On a motorcycle or the best race truck money can buy, it will always be a one-on-one battle for bragging rights.
It's still you against the terrain, driving the vehicle that you're driving at the best of your ability and trying to get there first.
Well, Steve, one of the race cars that really brings back a lot of fond memories for me is my very first two-seat Chenoweth race car here, as you see, built back in 1973. We actually won the Baja 500 in 74, the World Championships at Riverside in 74, as well as an Ensenada 300-mile race. But probably the technology has changed so much in wheel travel. Well, the wheel travel here is about 7 inches. My ProTruck is about 27. Horsepower about 50. ProTruck about 425. Top speed about 80, 85. ProTruck about 125. So we've come a long way in technology and race cars in the last 30 years.
Come on, tell the truth, Ivan. Could that thing really go 80, or did you just tell the competition that to intimidate them?
Steve, I tell you, it had to be a long, hard downhill road to get up 80 miles an hour in those old cars.
There's our race leader, Rick Johnson. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You're looking at the in-car view of Toyota's Rick Johnson with co-driver Ken Nance.
Get it on him. Slow her down, something's wrong. Oh! Taylor?
Yeah. Wow.
A lot of guys rolling it, so be careful.
Let's take a look at the replay on that, Ivan, see if we can see what that was.
Now what happened, you see the guy on the right that was trying to slow him down, and you see the race car on the right. We talk about a tricky course, and believe me, it's eating up a lot of cars.
Ivan talked with Rick Johnson before the race about his new Toyota.
How does the Tundra compare in horsepower and torque and all?
Well, we don't want to really give out a lot of information, but it's very competitive. We feel that we still got a lot of work to do on it, but we're surprised. Initially, the thought was that we were going to be behind on horsepower and torque, and we've been able to make some great changes with our cams through webcam racing, and that's helped us along quite a bit.
We are really excited to have Toyota in the series, as you know, Steve. We have Ford, Dodge, Chevrolet, GMC, and now to have Toyota, it's fantastic.
It should really add to the interest of who walks away with that big manufacturer's championship trophy at the end of the season, Ivan. Here's Rick's good friend and former teammate, the other Rick Johnson in the Ford, and Ivan, as friendly as they are, there's probably no one they'd rather beat than each other.
And there's no doubt about that. You know, they are good friends, they're neighbors, they live in the same area, actually up around Barstow, Victorville. They're very fierce competitors, they both want to win. But you know, Rick Johnson's got more, Ford Rick has got more experience, so it's going to be Toyota Rick that's really going to have to get on the throttle to beat.
John Becker now behind the wheel of his own truck and currently running third.
John, another very strong competitor, a lot of experience in smaller class trucks, but did a fine job.
This is Al Hogan running fourth, and Ivan, the last report we had was that less than half of this original 125 vehicle field are still running.
And it really doesn't surprise me. As we can see Al Hogan's truck, he's really gone through a battle. Fenders are missing, as with Jimmy Knuckles, right front fender missing. He's trying to make up time, running strong.
It's been a difficult race out here today for many of the vehicles in this race. Here's David Scaroni's father, Stephen, who is now behind the wheel of the 1227 Advanced Wireless Ford ProTruck, currently running sixth.
Steve Scaroni, another strong contender, as well as Dan Hunt.
So considering the attrition in this race, so far the ProTruck's handling it pretty well. Our race leader, Rick Johnson, now coming through a part of the section known as the Cliffs, and you really have to slow down here, Ivan.
Well, you know, this is one of the areas that we talk about the rocks in the course, and this, if you're going to have a flat tire, you can certainly have them here. Jagged, sharp rocks. You've got to be extremely careful in these areas.
A very dangerous section of the course. Toyota's Rick Johnson is maintaining good contact with the leader as he too comes through the Cliffs area.
What I would do if I were Toyota Rick here, I think I would just try and hang in there and don't let him get away. Hope he has a flat tire.
Keep your eye on him, but be careful. Here's John Becker right behind him, Ivan, and he and the Toyota Rick Johnson vehicle have had just a great battle today for that second spot, back and forth, changing positions in the pits and out in the desert. John's running a little slower now. Uh-oh, look at that back tire. That's why, Ivan.
That's exactly right, Steve. Look at the right rear tire. He's had a flat. He's probably looking for a place to pull over and change it.
Which isn't all that easy to do here because those sharp rocks are still around. You don't want to get a second flat tire, then you really have problems. The chase remains up front, and Rick Johnson has his Ford really working well. Actually, these guys all have the same tires, Goodyear, so you can't say there's an advantage here one way or the other, Ivan.
Well, not only the same tires, they have the same Goodyear tires, as you mentioned, the same chocks, the same wheel travel. Yeah, a very, very strong driver's class.
So we see Rick Johnson in the Toyota now following Rick Johnson in the Ford. It's beginning to look like a two-horse race. as we watch them continue to move along. And now this is Becker's co-driver, Craig Fullerton, really hustling to get this tire changed quick, Ivan, try to get back into this race.
Well, they do, and what they want to do, again, is get that change as quick as they possibly can. You can see they actually hit a rock that bends the wheel. Get change as quick as you can, but again, now they're down to one spare.
So they'll get a chance when they get to the pits probably to throw another one on there, I would assume.
Well, they'll weigh that out. That's a good point, Steve, because they have one more spare. Do they want to spend the time to get another spare or continue on and hope they don't have any more flats?
It's beginning to look like a guy named Rick Johnson has got the inside track. This one in the Milgard Windows Toyota, in his own words, is going to need to mash the gas to catch the one driving a Ford. We'll be right back. We're back for the finish of the Parker 425, and Ivan, maybe the only thing that can screw this thing up for Rick Johnson would be to make a mistake, making a late pass in this race.
And this is the time it's going to happen, or could happen. Making a pass like that, he's going to get off to the left here, and he could clip a big boulder that's out there he doesn't know there, or a stump or anything. Again, patience is so important here.
It's really scary when you're this close to the finish line and you start coming up on slower traffic. You don't want to lose any time here, but like you say, you got to be careful getting around these guys.
If something's going to happen, it's going to happen right here when they're passing people in the dust. You know, I got one time a few years ago in this race where I actually could see the finish line at Parker, and I couldn't get there. I had a big problem, and so it's this just like any other race. It's not over till it's over.
There you go. You never know until the very last minute, so you got to keep running hard as long as you can. Toyota Rick continuing to run second on the road, and here's John Becker after that flat tire running up good and strong in third place, but he'll need not one but two Rick Johnsons to falter down the stretch. Al Hogan is in that fourth position. He's had some troubles today. You see one of the cars in the ditch there beside him, but again, he's got to keep pushing too. You never know what's going to happen.
You don't. It's the same thing. You know, anything can happen. He's running third or fourth place. He wants to make the points. He wants that championship, driver's championship this year. You just got to keep running.
The father and son team of David and Steven Scaroni looks to have nailed down that fifth place for the moment. They're a ways back, but no other Pro Trucks are now running, Ivan, so there have been some problems. Rick Johnson in that Ford can smell the finish line now.
Last lap, like I say, be patient, Rick. Keep moving. Truck sounds good.
Here's the other Rick Johnson in the Toyota. He's in that wash area just a couple of miles behind him there. So Rick Johnson of the RJR team is by the main pit area one last time, and things are going so well. His crew members are packing up and heading to the finish line. Of course, the same could be said about the Milgard Windows sponsor team since they're crewing for both trucks. Soon as Rick Johnson flashes by, they too will head to the finish line located just a couple of miles away. But they're not going to get there in time to see Rick Johnson from Barstow, California win the second round of the Pro Truck Race Series. The other Rick Johnson in the Toyota has also reached the banks of the Colorado River, and he will move from dirt to pavement and head to the Blue Water Resort and Casino for the finish of this race.
And Steve, I'll tell you what, there's nothing like this feeling. You've got all the dirt behind you, you've got a little piece of pavement, you're going to make it to the finish line. Win, lose, or draw, you did a fantastic job. Nothing like that feeling.
Just glad to get there. Rick Johnson's truck is on the winner's podium. We'll be back to talk to our winner in just a few moments. Welcome back to Parker, Arizona, where John Becker has now crossed the finish line to secure third place. Meanwhile, Rick Johnson in the Toyota is the second Pro Truck to take his place on the winner's podium. And as he moves up there, let's go to Ivan with our winner.
It was an unbelievable day. Just you couldn't ask for a better day of racing. It was just perfect. No problems, no flats, just a perfect day. And this truck we came here with the truck that basically doesn't have much prep on it from the Baja 1000. Come on a whim, got it fixed after the accident in Laughlin, and it's just perfect. It's just what a race. You know, Rick was back there. We didn't know it. He was that close there until last lap, and boy, he was right on our butt. So we had to really pick it up and talk about a great race. I mean, Rick did a good job too. It was a lot of fun because I was really getting tired on the second lap, and he woke me up.
Al Hogan is now crossing the finish line for fourth, and Ivan has another happy driver.
Well, we have the second Rick Johnson. We're calling this Rick Johnson Toyota Rick. It looked like he had another fantastic day, other than I saw a branch in the side of your truck and some few little problems. It looked awfully good.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Ivan. It was absolutely incredible today. You know, even though we finished second, we had Milgard Windows with us all day today, and they're definitely number one company. And so, you know, we feel like we're still number one. Absolutely incredible day. Webcam, racing cam motor with Nils Castillo Motorsports and that Toyota Tundra, man. Almost tried to pull it off. It was tough. Hey, I just want to say thanks to Goodyear Tires. We didn't have to get out of the truck at all today. Unbelievable job. Mirage Racing with the Bilstein shock absorbers. Number one.
Vehicles continue to arrive at the Blue Water, and Ivan is now with John Becker.
I've been doing this for many, many years, and these guys stand around, their crew members, and talking about what kind of day they had, and they go like this, and they go like this, and they go like this, and they go, you must have had either a real close call or looks like you didn't go over, but tell us about your day.
Well, our shock started going away early, and it just couldn't take the rough. And we miscalculated one little jump and put it on its nose and almost went over. But we gathered it back up and had a pretty good day.
Like looking in the mirror, the two Rick Johnsons meet and congratulate each other on a great race, and a tired Al Hogan is standing by to talk with us.
It's a tough 400 miles. I'm just glad to be here. And my truck's kind of in one piece. We had some distributor problems. For a while, we were like within 3 minutes of the leader this morning, but it wasn't our day to win.
We'll be back to look at the new point standings. Stay with us. There's still a little bit of racing going on here in Parker, but only the little kids. The big kids, frankly, are too tired to do anything other than celebrate. Let's take a look at the day's final results. The Ford of Rick Johnson finished first, just 2 minutes and 13 seconds ahead of the Toyota of Rick Johnson. John Becker finished third. Al Hogan was fourth. David and Steven Scaroni, fifth. Jeff Dickerson and Jimmy Knuckles did not finish. The same story for Dan Hunt and the truck of Chet Huffman and Greg Lewin. Let's take a look at our new drivers and manufacturer point standings. Jeff Dickerson, despite not finishing the race today, is still leading the points. Ivan, this illustrates why you never quit. By finishing fourth, Al Hogan remains only 4 points behind Dickerson. And look at Ford Rick Johnson, only another 4 points back, so only 8 points difference in those top 3 spots.
And that's exactly what we want, Steve, is that tight drivers' championship battle going all year long.
Ford is atop the manufacturer's race with back-to-back wins. Toyota now on the board, tied with Chevrolet for second.
Be interesting to see what Toyota does. We know in the past they're very aggressive about championships. Time will tell.
We want to thank Casey Folks, the entire Best in the Desert Racing Association team, and our host, the Blue Water Resort and Casino in Parker.
You know, we're looking forward to our next race now is at Pahrump, Nevada, just outside Las Vegas. So that'll be our round number 3 in the Outdoor Life Network Pro Truck Series.
Should be another good one. Thanks for tuning in. So long, everyone, from Parker, Arizona.